All right, morning, evening, afternoon, all, and welcome back to another episode of the Plug Live podcast. Wherever you listen to this, I hope you're having a hell of a day. Today, I'm joined by Conor Nolan from the Unplayable Golf Podcast. Conor, how are you doing today?
All good, Mark. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you on. Actually, the last time I had you on was the Adair Manor Pro-Am when we had a pretty in-depth conversation around Xander Schauffele winning and just how good Adair Manor could be for the Ryder Cup. So it's been a while since we spoke, and a lot has happened in the meantime.
Yeah, I think around then, I'm not sure how dominated the golfing world was by the whole live saga at that stage, but yeah, there's definitely been a lot to talk about since.
Now it's dominating my nightmares and dreams at night time. I can't really sleep, but yeah, no, I think we have a few things to touch on in this podcast. Like, what started off being a very, very boring week in the world of golf last week, and then on Sunday I was sitting there and I was like, geez, the DP World Tour Championship is on this morning, and then the CME Group Tour Championship is on later, and then the PGA Tour is on after with why am I forgetting the name of this? The RSM Classic. And all of a sudden on Saturday, it seemed like we could have, or Sunday, it seemed like we could have a trio of Irish winners. But I think the world of golf got pretty hectic with no live this weekend. And it just shows that we didn't need live to have an exciting weekend of golf.
Yeah, no, especially for Irish people, like when McIlroy won the race to Dubai, Power was sitting tied second and Leon Maguire tied first. So, yeah, it looked like it could have been an incredible few hours for Irish golf. But it still was. Like, Maguire ended up finishing second. I'm sure we'll touch on it. And Power, I think he ended up getting the top five as well with a decent sized check. So, like, as far as Irish golf goes, great. And as far as the kind of, I guess, excitement in golf, and the RSM actually finished in really kind of good fashion. And in the DP World Tour, you've some of the best players in the world kind of hunting each other down. So yeah, it wouldn't have looked like much on the surface, but ended up being a great weekend of golf.
Well, you've given me a perfect segue into my next question, because the Tuesday trivia section is back this week, and I have two LPGA Tour golfers. And the first one is, how much has Leon Maguire won on the LPGA Tour this season? If you're to hazard a guess, Conor, do you have any idea what you'd even guess?
Well, she has a win, a few top fives, a few top tens, 2 of them majors. 2 million quid.
Okay. And I'll tell you at the end of the show. And then the second one was Lydia Ko, who's won the CME Group Tour Championship. Do you know what she has earned this season?
2 million alone this week, anyway. No, I wouldn't. 5.
Jeez, Conor, you must have researched before this podcast, because you're pretty much on the money with both of those, literally. All right, well, we'll jump over to Dubai, where Rory McIlroy won the DP World Tour Championship, and Jon Rahm won the event over in Dubai. All right, let's touch on Jon Rahm first, because in his interview after, he mentioned the fact that people had come up to him multiple times, given out that it was a very, very, in quotes, mediocre season for him. And he humbly said in his interview after that he's had 3 wins across 3 continents. How do you interpret this, Conor? Because since the Open, he has gone T5, T8, T16, T2, win, T4, win. And his world golf ranking has remained unchanged at 5th in the world. So how would you assess Jon Rahm's performance over the last 12 months?
Over the last few kind of months, I know he's kind of given out about the world ranking not changing, but like some of these wins are in the example of this week being a 50-man field and no cut. I think the other one was in Mallorca recently. Was it Mallorca or Andalusia, or which won the Spanish Open?
Yeah.
And like he's just been spending a lot of time on the DP World Tour, where I guess there isn't as great a depth of field. I see his point in that, like, if you are having to start questioning, why am I not getting the amount of points I feel like I deserve, especially from a guy who's one of the best players in the world, yeah, you kind of have to listen to him. But I think we spoke about this last week in terms of Rahm. He just gets in the heat of a moment at the odd time and kind of says things he mightn't necessarily kind of not believe, but just he he's not as, I guess there's a bit of a flair there when it comes to heat of the moment, and maybe speaking a bit too much about what he's actually thinking or how he's really feeling instead of trying to bottle it up a bit more. Like in the world golf rankings, like there is an equation there for it in terms of actually dedicating the amount of world ranking points for a player for a particular week. And when you have kind of, I guess, just the types of tournaments that he's been playing particularly well in recently, bar the ones in the States and the PGA Tour, obviously. It does feel like he could have gone up, but it's I don't really know where I stand on it. I think he's the only thing that I would be really worried about is all this kind of this kind of severe reaction towards the world golf ranking. Is it him trying to, I guess, get a bit of leverage on something like the DP World Tour to say, guys, you have to sort this out, or if the points aren't worth anything here, why am I bother playing here? And is that a potential kind of warm up towards moving to something else? I don't want to say it in the same sentence, Ram and Liv, but it's very strange comments for someone who was seen as kind of one of the poster boys, like a very similar place to McIlroy in terms of standing up for the tour and the Sevi kind of links to I guess being a proud European. It's I don't know. I just think it's a bit strange, to be honest.
Imagine he made all these comments about the world golf ranking points, trying to get them changed, and then it comes out in like 4 weeks that he's moving to Live after the world golf ranking points get changed. Like, that would be the greatest chess move of all time. But
yeah. Well, it's actually, do you have the world ranking points there now, or who's in the top few?
I have I do actually have it here on Data Golf.
Like, where is Cam Smith?
Cam Smith in the world golf rankings is third.
So you would have think, I guess, since Cam Smith left, Ram has put together a few good performances. You would have thought Cam Smith would have dropped, or at least if someone from kind of the top 5 was pushing on one of the top 2 or 3 guys, if they took a few weeks off, that he'd close the gap. So maybe he does have a point. I just think he's he's just speaking very freely. Yeah, and you do like to see the passion about it, but as in if there's a genuine problem there, you'd assume more people would be talking about it, as opposed to him just being potentially, I guess, pissed off that he's had a few good string of performances and he's not getting moved up in the world rankings.
Yeah, well, I think like he's given out with the fact that he's won 3 times and he's had this great run of form since the Open Championship, but you have to remember, like, one of those wins was the Mexico Open, where he was 3-1 to win. The other one was the Spanish Open, where it was like a weak field. The depth of field isn't that great that he's been playing on. And as well as that, I saw hypothesize on Twitter during the week that because he's now 5th and he hasn't moved, perhaps because it's a 2-year rolling system, perhaps he was getting rid of some really good events that he had to make up for these performances over the last 2 years. So maybe like 2 years and 1 month ago, he won a tournament. That was hypothesized, never backed up, but that's just a theory. But I think he just, I don't know. I do think that the world golf ranking points are unfair, especially like it just seems like it never really backs up. Like the fact that there was 23 points going for the DP World Tour event this week and 37 points were going for the RSM Classic, when 7 out of the top 25 players in the world were playing at the DP World Tour and 0 out of the top 25 players in the world were playing at the RSM Classic. It just felt like it was very unfair. Now, I do understand the fact that the World Golf Ranking Points do award a heavier weighting towards if there's more people within the field. So down at Seaside Golf Course, we had 150 players or so in the field compared to the DP World Tour Championship had only 50 players. So I'm kind of with you. I'm torn a little bit in the middle, but at the same time, when I saw it out last week saying, listen, we got to get more World Golf Ranking Points towards the DP World Tour Championship because it is a stronger field. Like beating Rory and John Ram and whoever else is there, Victor Hovland, was much better feat than beating Adam Svensson and whoever, like Seamus Perrin, no disrespect to him, and Sahith Theegala, they don't have that pedigree behind them that these top 25 players have.
Yeah, I think another kind of, I guess, point to it is like when there is 140, 50 odd players in a field, and like you're on the PGA Tour, like it's not like a normal kind of medal where this mightn't be the case, or a kind of local or smaller course where the top 2% always win. Like this is the PGA Tour. Like anyone, if they show up on the right week, wins. And like Adam Svensson is the absolute kind of picture of that. In that he played three RSMs before, never made a cut. Goes out there this week and wins. So like it doesn't really the DP World Tour this week was a bad example to use as an argument against why the PGA Tour is getting more points, because there was no cut and 50 people. Like it's like a live event nearly. Whereas on a week-to-week basis, if you go back, I don't know, to the Fortinet, where home won, that was a decent event. And I think that was the week of the Spanish Open, or just about a month ago, but like a relatively weak PGA Tour field and a relatively strong, I think it was a strong enough field. Maybe it wasn't the Spanish Open, but just in terms of like the weakest PGA Tour events versus the kind of good PGA Tour events or DP World Tour events. In those kind of cases, then if the weighting is kind of severely kind of skewed, like put the Fortinet up against Wentworth as an example, and then see what the points are. Like if Wentworth is getting less points than the Fortinet, then there's definitely some sort of bias towards PGA Tour event for world ranking points. Whereas this week you can't really size them up together, to be honest. But no, it'll be it will be kind of, I guess, interesting when they do actually sit down and talk about it properly, because they will have to, and they're only getting more and more pressure and kind of highlighted the more the kind of live saga goes on, and the likes of Cam Smith and DJ aren't getting world ranking points. So it's I think they're based in at St Andrews in Scotland. And I don't know how many people work for them yet, but I'd say they've never had more spotlight on them than they have at the moment.
No, never. Just to get back, just to touch on what you said there. So Max Home at the Fortinet Championship got 40.4 world golf ranking points. Shane Lowry at Wentworth got 38 world golf ranking points. So
Fortinet got more than Wentworth. Yeah. That doesn't sound right. Like that. No, that sounds a bit.
No, it doesn't at all. Well, I'll just briefly move on here, just talking about Jon Rahm. Otherwise, he mentioned in his interview that people actually kept coming up to him saying, "Oh, you've had a mediocre season," and he argued back the fact that he's won 3 times in 3 continents. And the comment I saw on Twitter was Tiger Woods would never ever say something like that. That winning 3 times, like the Spanish Open, the Mexico Open, and the DP World Tour Championship, 2 of them are like relatively weak events. And as well as that, it's Jon Rahm's first season since 2017, not having a top 10 in a major. I just don't know how he can be, to be brutally honest, I don't know how he can be satisfied with this season. Like, it doesn't seem like he's been really in contention in any major events so far. And he's coming out saying that it's been more than a mediocre season for him. Like, for him, who's been a major champion, number 1 in the world for many, many months, I don't know how he can be satisfied with what he's done over the last 12 months.
No, I totally agree. Like he's meant to be one of the best players in the world, and kind of McIlroy really kind of put him up on the pedestal with him when he was kind of talking about where he is in his game at the moment as well, and that he's one of the best players in the world. But yeah, like it's hard to, when you look at McIlroy, then like everything that he's won this year, FedEx Cup, number 1 in the world, what was it, top 8 in every major. Like that's a world number 1 golfer. If you're talking about a top 5 golfer and you're saying they won 3 events and 2 of them were in Mexico and Spain, doesn't really kind of flatter Rahm at all. And I think he's just being a bit defensive in terms of kind of sticking up for himself and saying like, we're just trying to push forward with his own kind of positive mental attitude. In that kind of, I'll be back in January. I think he's going to the Bahamas for the Hero. So like he doesn't really have a lot of off time. So maybe he's just trying to, I guess, come off on the back of this good bit of form and try to keep that momentum going into next year. Because really is like when we move, forget the Hero, but when we have the Century then in January. But that's not that far away at all, and suddenly the Dubai swing will roll around and you'll be in the majors, and maybe this is the start of his season in his own head, and he's kind of trying to forget about last year.
Yeah, like my counterpoint, like my point to it is Justin Thomas won the PGA Championship, a major, and he finished T8 at the Masters, had some other good finishes in the PGA Tour, and people argue that this is a disappointing season for him. Jon Rahm wasn't even in contention in those strong fields, and yeah, I got a little bit frustrated when I heard that comment out of him. Like, surely he's got to accept that this was a below mediocre year for him, but
yeah,
like
it's the same reason we've been slating McIlroy for years. Not slating, but like
8 years specifically.
This is 9th season now without a major, and like he has been in and around the top 10, top 5 in the world for that entire amount of time. Like he hasn't completely fallen off the rails. And for most of that time, we've been saying he's a complete disappointment. He's not fulfilling his potential. He's not doing this and that. Like we do base these guys off majors, and that's great. You can talk about all the best players in the world, and very few of them, bar like the obvious ones. How many times they won the PGA Tour, unless it's a very low number. Like when it gets to the higher kind of numbers, it's not really what you're remembered for. Then you kind of transcend into best players of all time, and how many majors they won. So for Rahm, yeah, I agree with you. Like he can try and take the positives out of the year. That's great. That's all well and good, but don't be kind of getting a bit pissy about it.
Yeah, it's exactly what you say. He's just letting off a bit of steam like the Spanish bulldog that he is. The number one player in the world is also the number one player in the FedEx Cup standings in 2022, who's also the number one player on the DP World Tour Championship last season. Rory McIlroy, you mentioned it about him already. What a year for Rory. Like, this is like what he's done over the last 12 months, and it's been well documented on this podcast how he's just put the PGA Tour up on his shoulders and carried Jay Monahan through this shit mess that he's been in, as well as that performance, the high standard that he's performing to. Like, man, I couldn't be any more proud of Rory right now if I tried to be.
Yeah, like he to be fair to him, he put himself in such a position, like in a pretty vulnerable position, where he came out as this kind of knight in shining armor for the European Tour, and it could have been like if he started playing golf or playing bad golf, all the media would have been like, he's focusing too much on this live thing. He needs to focus back on golf. He needs to forget about all the kind of politics that are floating around now and focus on getting back to where he was in the world. And in the last kind of 15 events, he's been in the top 8, 12 times. Like he's just literally been an absolute monster both on and off the field for the DP World Tour. Like he, again, going back to it, like he obviously played very well in all the majors, but couldn't get the job done in any of them. But I think we're seeing a different animal here now, completely, to what we have in the last few years. Like he's saying that his game is as good or as more put together, or whatever phrase he used, as it's ever been. And he's coming off, I think it was the last 5 events: first, second, fourth, first, fourth. Like if he just keeps this going, like I think we were talking as well about it on the podcast on I think it's 2-1 for him to win a major next year, and that is put every cent you have, just throw it all on him, because if he doesn't lose the form over the winter, he's not guaranteed, but he has as good a chance as he'll ever have to complete the career Grand Slam. And yeah, if he just keeps this up, he's winning 2 majors next year. But again, he does have to keep the foot on the pedal. If he kind of takes it off over the winter or takes an extended break or whatever, he could just kind of sloop back and then win the FedEx Cup again next year after all the majors are over and no one cares. Like it's all about timing for Rory.
Oh yeah, man, he has so many fucking inner demons to overcome though. Like I trust me, nobody is as big of a Rory fan as like probably 2 of us. Like whenever we've spoken to this, we've been major advocates of what Rory does for the game. Like you're crying out for him to win a major, and it feels like he's had so many opportunities to do this. Like, was it 2019? He won 2019. Like, look, he won the Players Championship, took a break for a month, and then finished T21 at the Masters. And it feels like year after year after year, he's had these incredible opportunities, like, and he just hasn't got it done. And like, we go to the Open Championship this year where you're like, oh, this has got to be Rory's chance. Like, he's just after winning the Canadian, T5 at the US Open, T19 at the Travelers, going to the old course where he's won multiple times, or where he's won back in 2011 or whatever. No, sorry, not. I don't know why I said that. Okay, whatever. But like, he's going into the Sunday tied with Victor Hovland, 4-shot lead, and you think like Victor Hovland's never won a major, like he's never been in this sort of pressure before, and it's just Rory doesn't get those putts rolling. Like, I actually thought he played pretty well on the Sunday, and to me that just summarizes everything. Like, no matter how well Rory is playing, there's such a mental hurdle there, and if he does win, I will hold my hands up straight away. But to have that mental block, and I know he works with psychologists and trainers and his wife and his dog and whoever else to try and help him get over the line, I am genuinely concerned that he can't get it done or won't get it done. And we'll look back on this and say, I cannot believe Rory McIlroy is only 4 majors, and he won a Players Championship 2019, and he's played incredible golf for the next 8 years, but could just never get it done in a major.
Yeah, the Open last year is a great example of it in terms of like what he needs, I guess, to get it over the line. Like, as you said, 4 shots clear with Hovland, and then a group back was Smith and Young, the two cans, absolutely feeding off each other for the entire day. Something like 15 birdies and an eagle between them. Whereas McIlroy and Hovland, I think they could only muster about 3 birdies between them. But like, if McIlroy was in a group with either of the cans, maybe that would have kind of lit a fire under him if he saw something to go and chase or to aim at, instead of being kind of coaxed along with this 4-shot lead with a guy who's never won a major. Like, if he needs external factors to get over the line, like, it's the opposite of what Tiger was, or a lot of the kind of great lads who they didn't need anything else. They'd go out and win. And this we're talking about Rory McIlroy. He won, how many shots did he win in Quail Hollow by? Was it 9 for his PGA
like
Championship?
That, yeah.
Like, so he can do it, but he just needs, or he needs to get back into that kind of a mindset. And yeah, I'm hoping that the comments this week, thinking that he's finally in a place where his golf has never been better, is the kind of catalyst to kick on. And yeah, just fucking 8 years later to get it done. Yeah.
We'll be in Ranelagh. McSorley's a Ranelagh that night if he gets it done.
Tell you what,
swinging off the bar. 2012 PGA Championship, he won by 8 strokes. 2011 US Open, won by 8 strokes over Jason Day. Oh man, I would die to be back in those days. All right, we'll move it on from Rory, because I'm going to start crying here in a second if we keep talking about him. Alex Noren finished tied for second. Wait, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Tied for second this week. It is at the DP World Tour Championship. He's been on a sneaky good run of form coming up to the Ryder Cup in 10 months. He's finished second at the DP World Tour Championship, second at the Alfred Dunhill Links, second at the Barracuda Championship. That's pretty good shooting from Alex Noren, and I know he's doing a lot of it with the putter at the moment. He's ranked 22nd out of the top 150 players in the world in strokes gained putting over the last 6 months. But like, my God, it would be a major benefit for Luke Donald if he keeps this going over the next 10 months.
Yeah, like he's similar to Power in that he does play a lot over in the States as well. So maybe in the kind of, I guess, the weaker fields, when you talk with Barracuda or the Barbasol or whatever, that he does do well, and he's still getting fair amount of points for it. Like, he's an amazing player. I love him. Maybe his appearance on the No Laying Up tourist sauce might.
You watch that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's great northern in Denmark is on my to-do list. I have a green fee for it, and I'm fucking dying to get over for it. But like, I think it's just from the if we move forward 10 months and are relying on Alex Noren, I'm not sure how good a state that will be for European golf. I would rather see the Hogards, or even the Ewan Fergusons, like someone like that, kind of fighting up and being like what the Hovland was for us in the last one. Kind of debutants who are really kicking on, instead of relying on Alex Noren. I do love him, absolutely love him. Like his pre-swing drills where he basically puts his hand on the ground before making contact with the ball is I love everything about his game. And as you said, he's been putting incredibly well lately. But I'd just be worried he'd be like relying on fucking Westwood or Poulter last year, like that kind of a hope, as opposed to thinking, right, we have a team full of good young lads here, let's fucking go and get them in Rome.
Yeah, like I might have to realize. Why do you know what age he is? I'm just looking it up, so I don't want to give it away.
I'd say he's 44.
40? Jeez, I would have said like 35. He looks so young.
He's 40, is he?
Yeah,
I thought he was in his 40s now. Oh, well, actually, yeah, he's not that old then.
Yeah, but as per Data Golf, he's ranked as the 18th best golfer in the world right now. He's. Do you know how?
Is he? Data Golf, right?
Yeah, as per Data Golf, yeah, he's 41st in the world as per the World Golf Rankings. My concern is like having a 40-year-old on the team. Exactly what you say. It feels like we're going back to a Poulter and a Westwood sort of situation. Who people could argue they never should have been on the team, but he did go 2-1-0 down in Paris, so he has potential to play well on some of these team events. But I do agree with you. I think there's too many good players coming up right now to warrant Alex Noren being in the team, and it would feel like a massive step backwards if we were relying on him.
If he fights his way into it, fair play. Like he is a class match player, but I'd just be worried now if Donald is even considering it at this point. If he gets there in his own merit in a very similar way to Seamus Power, through the international kind of side, fair play. Like, would love to support him, and I'd love him on the team if he's playing well enough to deserve to be there. But yeah, I wouldn't be relying on him now.
Yeah, 10 DP World Tour wins, hasn't won one since 2018. Oh, that's tough to see.
That's even a decent hauling, to be fair.
I was shocked by that now when I just saw the double figures there on my page as well.
Yeah. I was definitely saying at least half that.
Yeah.
I thought top 4 or 5.
Okay, I have another hypothetical question for you. So Matt Fitz. I love these hypothetical questions because we're into that shit part of the season where there's very little players to talk about. Matt Fitz finished T5 this week and Shane Lowry finished T23. Who do you think Luke Donald is more excited to see at the Ryder Cup down in Rome? Who do you think he'll place like a bigger importance on? And take your patriotism away.
Matt Fitz all day. Like he's just been a complete revelation to himself this year. Like all the work that he's done on his speed in particular, like he's unrecognizable than what he was, I'd say, 2 years ago. In terms of just fucking raw speed, and not just speed but accuracy as well. It's how you get yourself into position in majors, like when you're just that super consistent and also adding about 10 yards. I'm not sure how long he's added, but it's definitely been at least 10 yards in the last 2 years overall. No, but he's one of the best players in the world. As much as we love Larry, like Matt Fitz is just, if you had to back them every week or put each way money on each of them each week, you're going to make far more money off Matt Fitz. And for the Ryder Cup, I'm not sure I'd say he's equally excited about Larry, especially after how kind of passionate he was last time out and how much it means to him. As well as having potentially Power there as well as a teammate. Like if you're kind of plotting out courses for or plotting out kind of partnerships for a place like or a place like the Ryder Cup, that's so important. So if there is a Lowry and Power there, great. Then you have Matt Fitz and say Fleetwood, maybe as another, and then you kind of dot yourself around to make sure that everyone complements each other very well. So I'd say he's definitely more excited about Matt Fitz, but like he has to kind of be thinking about Larry as well with the the potential of even fucking McIlroy, and him and Fleetwood are best mates as well. You put Larry with anyone, but
Yeah, that was exactly what I was meant to say. I think
he'd do well with anyone.
I think Matt Fitz is like the more exciting player for Luke Donald in terms of going out and getting points. Even though in Whistling Straits he in Nepal Whistling Straits in Nepal and Ryder Cup he went 0-3, at 0 points from 3 matches. But like he is a completely different player this year than he was back then. He's currently now 9th in the world. He's, like you mentioned, added a lot to his game. He's a major champion. Like, even like we talk about balls, like I never would have given Matt Fitzpatrick a compliment saying he had a big pair of balls. But that shot he pulled off on the 18th hole at the US Open, where he was in the bunker and he had to fade it around the fescue, like that was nerves of steel. And he could have just tried to pitch out onto a fairway and get up and down to potentially make a par and win it, or make a bogey, go to a playoff. And he's just like, fuck this with Billy Foster, and went for it. But in terms of partnerships, I'd say Luke Donald is licking his lips after what you saw with Shane Lowry at Whistling Straits, thinking, I compare this guy with anyone. And he's going to be like our, not Tom Kim, he's going to be like our Siwoo Kim, like getting in the face of the other players and fucking making JT put out 3-foot putts.
That's really Tom Kim job. No, he's like, he, even last week, he was kind of joking and hugging Hovland on the course.
Yeah.
Like, so him and Hovland get on very well. Him and Fleetwood apparently are great mates, like even on and off the course. There's obviously Power and McIlroy there as well. And like, yeah, you could put him with literally anyone. You'd only then have to kind of maybe think about the actual style of play as a kind of finishing touch to find the perfect partner for him. But no, he's I don't know what the right way to describe him is, but he'd meld in with anyone.
Absolutely. We're going to segue onto the PGA Tour then, where Rory McIlroy's been winning non-stop nowadays. Adam Svensson picked up his first win on the PGA Tour down at Seaside. And I'd like to say that this, like you mentioned there, that he had missed his last 3 cuts at the RSM Classic. Then all of a sudden he wins this week. And I would like to say this is a little bit unprecedented as well. He's gone 39th, missed cut, 59th, 69th, 54th in his last 5 starts in the PGA Tour before this. And all of a sudden this week just gains like under 12 strokes putting and has the best week of his life and wins at like 150 to 1 or 130 to 1 for a lot of people.
Yeah, like I was looking up that past form as well, just as a kind of another kind of bullet in the barrel for the why the depth of field matters so much to the World Golf Ranking equation. Like this guy was, what did you see him at 150 to 100 to 1, or is that was?
I've seen loads of people on Twitter betting him at 150 to 1. And now I've reopened my Paddy Power account thinking maybe I can do that too.
You'd want your fucking head examined if you backed him at 150 to 1. Like,
I've seen loads of people back him at 150 to 1.
That was he must have said something to someone that he was feeling good. And not only that, he was 1 over after the first round. I'd say he was 1,000 to 1 by Thursday evening. But he did. I was reading kind of into it afterwards. I don't know that much about him. Like he's Canadian guy who came up kind of through the Canadian Q School or something like that. Like he's not very well known, and obviously 70 starts and no wins, so you don't really hear much about these kind of guys. But what he did say was they were in Texas last week and he was just making too many stupid mistakes. So all he said this week was, we're going to hit the middle of the greens and hope the putter works. And lo and behold, he's first overall in putting. So as you said, like a ridiculous strokes gained average, which is literally how he won. Like if his putter was a bit colder, he would have been 2 and 3 putting from the middle of the green every time. But that was the only tactics he said he changed from last week. So yeah, you have to think if he's putting that well this week and it's a fairly straightforward game plan like that, he might be one to keep on the side of moving forward. But he'll have to put a few more kind of top 10s together before there'll be any kind of trust, really, especially seeing as he's barely making cuts and hanging around the 50-60 mark for most of the previous tournaments.
Yeah, I think on the PGA Tour, I think at Seaside, people's models recognized the fact that putting was going to stand out. And over the last 6 months, he's 33rd from the top 150 players in strokes gained putting. So Now, the crazy thing is, this is his first ever career top 5 in the PGA Tour event, and it's a fucking win down at the RSM Classic. So I agree with you. I don't know how I don't know how people managed to pick him. He's the 16th Canadian to win on the PGA Tour, and now he gets like a spot in the Masters, a 2-year exemption, $1.4 million. It joins Mackenzie Hughes as the Canadians to win on the PGA Tour this season. Like, that's from Bob Weeks from TSN, the Sports Network. Like, yeah, I was looking through the stats, and I cannot see one thing that would have made me think last week, you know what, Adam Svensson would be a good fucking bet this week. But
no, anyone that did it needs to do the fucking lotto. Like, it's definitely, as far as trying to put kind of logic behind your picks or any sort of reasoning, like, you normally have something. Like, there is barely, if you want to use that pulling one as an excuse to back him, that's probably not even strong enough to spend more than €1 each way on him at 150 to 1. But no, it's great for him. He seems like a really nice lad as well, and that's a 2-year exemption now, and he's going to get invited to the Masters and the PGA or the USPGA. So yeah, we'll see how he can go on.
Yeah, very good. I didn't get to see too much of this because don't ask me questions. My father got rid of the fucking Sky Sports broadcast, and they were using Now TV, and I don't have Red Button, and I have to fucking watch. Sorry, I don't have it. I watched the LPGA Tour instead, but Seamus Power was in contention for a while. Twitter kind of lit up for a short period of time from an Irish perspective, but it's a massive step towards Ryder Cup selection for Seamus Power, who's like, this could have been his second win in 3 starts, and he ended up tying for 5th down at Sea Island.
Still making over 300 grand. Like, it's huge for him. I think he's home now. He's coming back to have a bit of a party with Gary Hurley, who recently got his DP World Tour status. So they're going to be celebrating a joint event. So there'll be some crack in West Waterford. But no, like, it's amazing for him. Like, he's as we said earlier, like, the world ranking points seem to be skewed towards these PGA Tour events, and he just keeps rocking up in the top 5. So the more he can do that, like, I think if he won this week, he would have gone into the top 25, something like that, maybe even top 20. So, like, he's hovering around the top 25 in the world. Like, this is a guy a year ago we would have kind of thinking of getting invites to majors was a fantasy, and now he's pretty much secured himself as one of the top players in the world. So, like, I guess we're not taking it for granted, but he's definitely, he seems to be overachieving every time he kind of takes a huge step forward in his career, whether it is a top 50 in the world, whether it is a win. He seems to find another glass ceiling to break. So if he can keep it up, perform well in the majors next year, he can't be ignored by Luke Donald, and hopefully he gets there by his own kind of merit. But it would be very, very cool to see two Irish lads, well, 2 Republic of Irish lads in the squad in Rome.
Yeah, and he's currently leading. We were talking off air. Currently leading the FedEx Cup as well, which is fucking crazy that Seamus Power is leading the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, too bad McIlroy will hit form at the end of next year, win 3 in a row, and take the whole thing.
Get to East Lake and just shove it in everybody's face, and thank Jay Monahan for another payout. The other thing, congrats to Seamus Power. The other thing we were talking off air about is, and I've been preaching about this for ages, is the cluttered schedule on the PGA Tour. Because this was like a tournament that, if you're an American player or an American spectator, you're competing with NFL, you're competing with the LPGA Tour, and it's events week in, week out. And I understand the fact that the PGA Tour wants to give people coming off the Corn Ferry Tour a chance to get their card or a chance to play well in some of these weaker events. But at some stage, I would just love to see a little bit of an off season whereby players can revitalize. And the example I go to is, after the lads are screaming downstairs because I think Wales have scored and they have money. They have money on Wales right now, I think. Oh, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But anyways, I'm getting distracted here. The current schedule in the PGA Tour is like the example I go to is the FedEx Cup, or sorry, the 2019-2020 when COVID hit, and we ended up having like a 6 months hiatus, and we came back, and Rory was playing unbelievable before this, and all of a sudden, he comes back and he wasn't as sharp as he was. Bryson comes back and he's this fucking Hulk looking monster on the walking around the golf course, giving it a bit of fire ants and trees. People just came back with like new personas, new attitudes, new bodies, and you didn't know what to expect. And it added a lot to the excitement. I remember even for that period, like Twitter was going mad, like looking at somebody like Tony Finau's Instagram who had hit 200 mile per hour ball speed. And people hypothesizing, oh, what's he doing in the off season? What's he doing on the off season? And I would just love to see something like that where Jay Monahan comes out and says, listen, you know what? We're not going to see any of these players for 4 or 6 weeks and take a break.
Yeah, we have 6 weeks for them now until Century. You can do a lot in 6 weeks. I know. I get what you're saying, but I also kind of understand why they're doing it. And it's, as you said, it's to try and give these lads some sort of a kind of stepping stone in towards the deep side of the pool. That is kind of these heavy skewed events that are going to be popping up now in the new season calendar. No one, like, Ken, I hate kind of slating the Barbasol. I don't know why it always comes to my head when I think of the shit PGA Tour tournaments. But like, if you win the Barbasol, like, fair play to you. You're picking up a massive check. No one was there to play in it, bar like everyone else who's kind of just needs to get over their kind of quota for the card. And then that's kind of why all these tournaments are there and why there's so much time on every week. Like, yeah, if there was a longer off season, there would be so many more lads losing their cards. They'd have to bring the actual kind of money value down on what the quota is or the threshold is to retain your card. If you start doing that, then it just gets very, very messy. Then if you're starting to talk about Q school for lads who kind of might have stayed on the PGA Tour if they had had one more chance or one more event where all the best lads in the world weren't playing. I think this season is going to be incredible because it's a heavier skew on those kind of tournaments, and like it'd be very similar to if you say the NFL there and something like they have an off season. These kind of tournaments around November to February or November even December now are very similar to the last few games in the regular season in the NFL, where the lads who are already in the playoffs don't really care and they're resting their teams for the big games. The lads who are at the bottom of the league aren't really trying that hard because they want better draft picks. Like, they're not really important games between 14 and 16, bar like a handful. And but you still need them because they flesh everything else out. You can't just not play them. So I think these PGA Tour events are like that. They're kind of like a bridge between obviously the FedEx Cup and the start of the kind of new enhanced events. But if you don't have them, there's an issue, like, fundamentally with how the actual product will run. So I agree some of them are shit. I'm not going to watch them, but I realize why they're there.
Yeah, I barely have time to fucking prepare my Christmas list. I'm trying to watch some of them, so it just seems a little bit messy. And I would prefer if Jay Monahan came out and said, you know what, we're going to leave these to the guys who are 71 to 125 in the FedEx Cup and give them a chance to battle these events out. And the other players were, but I know we were speaking a little bit off air about this as well. I know it is going to be changing a little bit as well, the format of the PGA Tour next season. So we might try and get a podcast on that in the run up to Christmas, because we're 44 minutes through this and we've barely got to speak about the incredible Lydia Ko down at the CME Group Tour Championship, who's the winner of the CME, like I mentioned, winner of the CME Group Tour Championship, Rolex Player of the Year. She's like, Lydia Ko, and I couldn't believe this, is 25 years old, and this is from Michael McEwen, 25 years old, a 2-time major champion, 19 LPGA Tour wins, 3-time LPGA Tour OOM winner, which is, I presume, like, Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Olympic silver medalist, Olympic bronze medalist, former world number 1, the 5th highest earner in LPGA Tour. She's a year younger than me. And I've done nothing with my life. I've barely started a podcast and she's fucking won this incredible amount of money.
Yeah, I don't want to tell you how much younger she is than me. No, like, I know she's incredible. Like, she's a freak. When you're kind of looking week to week through the LPGA Tour events, like, it's very similar to when you see McIlroy or Ram at the top of some of these events with the market kind of literally just absolutely barging down on them. She's the exact same as that in terms of just being in nearly a league of her own on a week to week basis. But it is very cool to see our own girl from Cavan giving her a run for her money. There was definitely a good sweat on Saturday night after that incredible round on Saturday afternoon. But like the fact that Maguire is even thereabouts with someone like her, like she actually said afterwards, she was obviously disappointed. But I think it was 4 years ago to this week, she missed Q School by a shot. So like in a 4-year turnaround, she's now literally battling out with the likes of Lydia Ko and the best in the world. So when you have someone like that from our small little island, it's nice to see that we can battle with the best of them.
Yeah, I think it was Brian Keogh tweeted out that if she had won that $2 million purse yesterday, that $2 million winner's paycheck, it would have been the largest single paycheck ever taken, or second largest paycheck ever taken by an Irish golfer. Number 1 would have been Rory after he won the Players' Championship. So, like,
yeah, literally, yeah. It's an amazing purse for a tournament. But again, kind of we briefly talked about it off air, like where, and I think you said the CME CEO called them out on it. Like where could you watch it?
Yeah,
like it's the coverages, and the PGA Tour are the same. Like they're just offering this fucking massive hole for the likes of Live to exploit by putting on YouTube and free to air. But yeah, I don't know whether there'll be more of a kind of strategic alliance, obviously PGA and DP, but will LPGA be factored into that then, so that there'll be some sort of not even shared airtime, but some way to accommodate these tournaments that can all happen within 5 hours of each other, and it's 8 hours of airtime. Don't think it's part of it, but like it really fucking should be, like in terms of people being able to actually watch them.
Yeah, it was actually, sorry, he actually was. I will make the point now about the TV broadcast, but the CME CEO they'd organized a dinner, and basically nobody turned up. No players turned up to a pre-tournament dinner that was organized. He came out and blasted the LPGA Tour saying it's an embarrassment to my company and me. I think it was Serena Williams was supposed to turn up. I think I saw a tweet about this today. Serena Williams was supposed to turn up and ended up that she had to cancel. And then LPGA Tour was like, oh no, I'm not going. And he came out and said, I am exceptionally disappointed with the leadership of the LPGA. They better get their act together because they're going to lose people like me over stuff like this.
Okay. I didn't hear that. Fucking hell, yeah.
That is fucking wild. So, and apparently there was supposed to be other people there, like former US presidents, secretaries, and other VIPs. So I'm going to do a bit more of a deeper dive into this, but Terry Duffy is the name of the CEO. That is a fucking launch. That's a rocket missile towards the LPGA Tour. I will.
No, but you'd be fuming, like in terms of a company sponsored event like that and putting up the biggest fucking purse ever on the LPGA Tour. I presume it was it? It may be barring a major.
Yeah, the biggest ever. I
think. Like putting up that kind of money and getting treated like shit. I'd be just as furious.
And organising all these former like presidents or whoever to come, and then just none of the players turn up. Yeah, I completely agree. I think I'll launch my own little attack here because I was speaking with somebody in work today that the great thing about the LPGA Tour is they're so much more relatable to us than Brooks Koepka or Rory McIlroy or even an Adam Svensson who hits the ball 290 to 300 off the tee and then has like a pitching wedge that goes 155 yards. The LPGA Tour is like so much more relatable to me personally as a golfer anyway, and the fact that he was the 13th hole yesterday, Leona had a par 5, 270 yards into the green. Now, I don't want to call her out on it, but she topped it into the water. And
Cole did something there as well, didn't she?
Yeah, and Cole like sliced in.
Yeah.
And like, but they were only trying to lay up with a 3-wood. But my point is, like, for an average golfer, the LPGA Tour is so much easier to watch, and the fact that I only hit it that distance, or I only hit my pitching wedge with that trajectory. But there's nowhere we can watch it. And like I love watching the LPGA Tour on a weekly basis whenever it's on the red button, even though the fucking red button is gone now. But whenever I can watch it, I do love watching it. And yeah, I think it's when you have €2 million or $2 million, $2 million up for a winner's purse, and you can't see it anywhere for a lot of the holes, it just makes it kind of a mockery of the whole thing. And I thought this was what the skating attack was about, and it actually wasn't. But if I was Jerry Kelly, that's what I'd be having a few private words about.
Yeah, like how you're saying in terms of them being, I guess, distance-wise, a little more relatable. But it is, I remember caddying in, I think it was the girls or the women's Irish Open. I think it was the girls' Irish Open years ago. And Leona Maguire and Lisa were there. Like, distance-wise, yeah, they'd probably still hit it past most lads and with far more accuracy. But when you get inside 150 yards, it's disgraceful how good they are. That's really where the main difference. And I'd say you could put any kind of male pro up against a female pro from within the yards where it doesn't really matter, where it's just actually a kind of field shot nearly to an extent. It's going to be very, very little difference. Like it's so impressive from that distance in. So yeah, it's like, but it is a great leveler. It's very similar to tennis in that regard. Like women's tennis is just as good to watch as men's tennis because it's kind of on the same platform in terms of actually going against or one-to-one opponent on a very similar skill level. And golf is then another layer of kind of intricacy where you're trying to kind of pack this puzzle or trying to figure out this puzzle of the golf course they're playing that week. So yeah, in terms of viewership, it has the exact same kind of credentials as tennis, which has as high a viewership as men's. Then when you watch the Wimbledon, whatever, it's obviously really well kind of integrated in terms of both of them are shown at, I don't know, like it's just very well laid out. Whereas in golf, it's awful between men's tours, it's awful between men's and women's tours, it's just awful in general. So when you do have Liv kind of giving everyone it out for free, and I know it's going to go to Fox or something next year, that they're actually paying for the rights to kind of show on the network. But when you have a big disruptor in there, and they're very easily able to capitalize on you not being able to show everyone golf, that's not a fucking good look. So I think they're going to have to really kind of step that up as we move towards these kind of the majors, the bigger events. Like take the British Open. That was the best watch I think the best time I've ever had watching golf because of that Rolex sponsorship and there was no ads. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Whereas then you watch, I'd say if you did watch the RSM this week, you get 3 shots and then 5 ads and the Golf Beyond on mute on the side of the screen. Like it's so stupid to be able to, or to allow the product that is these unbelievable golfers be kind of shat on by advertisers and money. So yeah,
we're starting a podcast. We're starting a protest that Jay Monahan needs to go. He has to go fucking go. I'll be with you. Like it's a joke. Like Greg Norman's like the biggest fucking. The fact that people make memes or memes of Greg Norman and Jay Monahan with clown faces on them. Like, Jay Monahan should never let himself get into that situation, but he does it by how bad the product is. And even the PGA Tour released a new PGA Tour app last week. I don't know if you had the chance to test out yet.
I had a quick look at it over the weekend. Yeah, stuff. I don't know how people get apps done so badly, or how they allow them to actually go live when they're so fucking buggy. It's slightly faster at the leaderboard, I guess, but the old one was a fucking joke.
I could have done a better job with HTML and CSS. It's a fucking mess. Oh, right. Okay. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I literally will be awake all night thinking about how shit Jay Monahan has been during some of this. I want to briefly touch on Greg Norman because you
Here we
have
go.
documented. Do you have another hour left?
Oh, fuck. That's what
Let me
happens
get this.
every week when we do the Unplayable podcast. It's literally we set aside, I don't know, say there's 3 or 4 topics to touch on, and Liv ends up being at least 60% of the conversation every fucking week.
And that's the only reason I wanted to bring it up, because you have on the Unplayable podcast, you have documented very, very well just what's going on, what's happening, how bad Greg Norman is, and how much of a psycho or sociopath that he is. What do you think is Liv's next steps? Do you think there's let me just start off a little bit more of a closed question. Do you think there's anybody, or who's the biggest name do you think that they get on the PGA Tour?
Player wise,
player wise, or if anybody.
I kind of touched on earlier saying Ram's comments might kind of indicate that he's unhappy where he is, but I don't think he'll go. I'd be willing to put money on Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay both going, which would be which would be fucking terrifying, I know. But Cantlay has said it before. One of those kind of bullshit defensive kind of deflective remarks that my team handles all that kind of stuff. And I thought he was going to go before the FedEx Cup. I thought he was going to hang on till the end of the FedEx Cup and then go. And I'm still convinced he's going to go. I'm just surprised he hasn't gone yet. And he will drag Xander Schauffele with him. They're best mates. They'll go on a team together, or they'll do something. But I'm pretty sure if Cantlay goes, who I think is going to go, Xander's going to follow him. The other kind of guys, I thought Ricky Fowler, there's big rumors of him going, but I think he's too pally with JT and Jordan Spieth to go at this stage. If he had been offered the money, like a good chunk of money 12 months ago, and he was playing shit, he might have taken it. But the fact that he's back to actually potentially competing on PGA Tour events, and he's getting back into actually loving the game of golf, I think he's going to stay. I'd say, Cantlay is the next big ticket item for Liv, I think, and he might drag Xander with him. And if they can get then some branding icon like Ricky as well, it would just help them on the marketing side as well. I don't really think they give a shit about much other than what is this person going to bring to us, and they don't care about golf. It's about kind of things more than golf for their image.
I don't think they give much of a shit about marketing though either, because the way that they've communicated some of these messages and created names of teams or whatever, it's the intern is doing a stellar job. Like, the intern must be a future CMO of a multinational company, because he's getting all this experience and he's doing a bad job. But like,
the intern is the same intern that after Taylor Gooch won his Live competition, he said, "Best luck to this week's winner, Taylor Gooch, in the Open in St Andrews," and he wasn't even in the fucking field. So that's what's running Live at the moment, or their social media channels, and their logos and team names. Like, they're like those clip art kind of illustrations from Microsoft Word back when you had a dial-up connection for the internet. Like, it's just they're so. I think it's all going to change, though. I do see what they're trying to do, and I am terrified that it's going to work. The PGA Tour had the perfect chance to get out in front of this. Obviously, your pal Jay at the wheel didn't do fucking anything. He just threw more money at the problem, which wasn't the right solution. He had the opportunity to kind of do something similar to Live, or some sort of an F1 style event, and say, yeah, let's dedicate these. Actually, it complements what you're trying to say as well on that kind of off-season side. Let's have, I don't know, from the end of October through to December, like a 6-week period where these teams go up against each other in not a shotgun start of 54 holes, but like some more of a kind of blitz thing where you don't have to play, but there's going to be loads of money and you can come play if you want, while the kind of Corn Ferry guys are either trying to keep or get their card or some money towards it in tandem with it. You could have got Titleist in, I don't know who would be a good example, Strixon for Lowry. So you'd have Lowry and Matsuyama on one team, and they fight for Strix and then some clothing manufacturer as a brand, just in terms of Red Bull racing in the F1 kind of thing.
Yeah,
like there was an opportunity to do that, and they just didn't do it. And now I'm pretty sure that's where Liv are going to go. I think I can't remember, is it Honda or there's some company, AT&T I think was another one that was rumored that they're going to be buying like majority stakeholdings in these teams.
I think Adidas is another one rumored.
Yeah, like, and they're going to be worth about $1 billion by the end of it. So then that gives the captains who have equity in it an incentive to either get the best team together or get the best signings in the transfer window, or like it's going to turn into Formula One, and the PGA Tour had a chance to get in front of it. They fucked it, and I've never been more worried that it's actually going to work out.
All right, let me plug like crazy here in the Plug Live podcast for a second, because few things. The Xander thing, apparently he came out in No Laying Up podcast last week, said that he's not going to Live, which was documented by Andy Lack as well on the Inside Golf podcast, who actually, I think he knows people within the Xander camp who said that he's not going. Now, the other thing is, according to Andy as well, is that apparently Xander and Cantley, like you said, are a dual package, and they cannot go without each other because they're such pally mates. And if Xander is so insistent on not going, then Cantley can't go. But at the same time, so I don't think I don't think Xander will go. But at the same time, I completely agree with what you're saying. The fact that Xander, God, why am I so bad at these names? Cantley a few months ago said, my team handles all that. And I was convinced he was on the private jet. I thought
he was gone the next week. Yeah.
I thought he was holding hands with Greg Norman down the back of the plane, jumping off to Saudi Arabia. But he hasn't gone yet. So
no, I don't. I agree. I don't think Xander is the type of person that would do it for money. Like he's so proud of his kind of Olympic medal. Like things of the history of golf and like golf as a sport mean a lot to him. But him and Cantley are literally joined at the hip, and I was sure he was going. So I thought they were going to throw an enormous amount of money, or throw Cantley an enormous amount of money to talk shit in his ear to make him move over. That's the only reason I thought he was going. Cantley I thought would be gone, and Xander would end up being kind of, I guess, friendly fire in the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is the let me send some friendly fire towards my best friend, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, again, because like, as you can tell, I'll probably ask Jay Monahan to be best man at my wedding. But when the PGL, the Premier Golf League, approached him and said, we want to work with you guys, the fact that Jay Monahan just literally point blank ignored his emails, ignored his messages. Rory came on No Laying Up saying that he advised Jay, basically said that he advised Jay to go speak to him, just hear them out, hear what they have to say. And Jay was so adamant and cocky and self-righteous. Jay Monahan would be like your man that was fucking run that FTX trading platform. In the fact that like he's just so arrogant and condescending towards people. And I tell you what, he is blessed that he has Rory and Tiger saving the PGA Tour right now and getting people together in a room and saying that they're going to run an event, because
that's the best thing, actually. Like we were speaking about Adair earlier on, like Tiger organized a meeting for the players while they were in Adair at the Pro-Am. Like it's nothing to do with Monahan. And
Jay was there with Keith Ellie.
Oh, was Jay? Oh, he was actually. You saw him, yeah.
I got a photo with him. So like, I'm telling you, I have a dartboard here behind me with Jay's face in the middle of it. No, like I cannot believe, like, if this was a public limited company and a CEO was running it like this with no innovation or no wouldn't listen to anybody outside, he'd be gone within a week. Shareholders would be, and like he could be next UK Prime Minister for 40 days and be gone, because he's doing that bad of a job.
Yeah, no, it is. He's I don't know. I'm very surprised he survived this long. And when there is going to be like, as you said, it's pure arrogance the way he treated the Saudi Golf League as well, or whatever, Premier Golf League, whatever it was called. But that just shows his mentality and where he is and what he has, like what he's sitting on in terms of the PGA Tour. It's like, it's perfect, it's grand, it doesn't need to change. no one's gonna ever like. He ran a monopoly, and he kind of sat on it. And again, as he said, the lack of innovation, just week in, week out, season in, season out. Let's add a 10% raise to this purse. Let's get a new sponsor in for this. But like whatever the case was, like the only thing they seem to be talking about is where they're going to host venues 20, 30 years in the distance. Like they're never really focused on the short term. And like it's always been, oh sure, of course everything's going to be fine. Like we can look this far down into the future because golf is golf and PGA Tour is the PGA Tour. So yeah, I don't know. I think he's the wrong man to have the wheel, especially when there's a huge disruptor trying to eat your lunch.
Yeah. The other thing was that I'll just finish off on this. Live Golf are apparently getting rid of Greg Norman and hiring a new CEO who was the former CEO of TaylorMade for a few years, from like 2001 to 2014. He grew the revenue from like $350 million to $2 billion.
Yeah, he's the CEO of a mobile company or a network company in the States then, isn't he, after that?
Yeah. So apparently he's gone. But I want to stop talking poorly here about Jay Monahan. I could be facing a $750 million lawsuit in the morning. So I better just calm down here for a sec. I will round up the show here by the Tuesday trivia questions. So my first one was, how much has Leona Maguire won on the LPGA Tour this season? You said 2 million, which is actually a very good guess. The answer was 1.81 million.
Oh, fuck.
Lydia Ko, you said 5 million. She has won $4.36 million on the LPGA Tour last season now. So yeah, it's kind of puts things into perspective. Just Leona Maguire had a pretty good season and only picked up how much typical an elevated PGA Tour event is. So I would love to see him # grow the game, but yeah, no, good questions. Well done.
We did. What was the other one? There was I think McIlroy's combined earnings for the year came out. I think it worked out, obviously excluding the signing fee. I think he made 46 million this year, and DJ made 45, 42. So McIlroy actually earned more than DJ on the course this year, excluding his obviously his massive paycheck at the start. So yeah, there's and it's going to be even worse next year. Well, not worse. It's going to be even more for anyone that kind of seems to peak at those top 8 events at majors. Like the money professional golfers are earning at the moment is absolutely ludicrous. But it seems to be the only driving force in any kind of, I guess, movement for a new type of golf, like shotgun starts, bollocks, 54 holes, not golf. Whereas money seems to be the driving factor for all of these events and what seems to be swaying people from one tour to the other. So hopefully this kind of new season and more emphasis from the PGA Tour on the history of events will kind of, I guess, just help solidify the PGA Tour as the place to play golf. But lots of money being thrown around. It's pretty sickening.
Yeah, none coming towards me nowadays. Conor, listen, we'll finish off here. Where can people find you? You do great work on the Unplayable Podcast, but just tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Twitter at ConorN11 or Instagram CNolan11, and then the Unplayable Podcast is on Spotify. Normally every Wednesday.
Yeah, super, and it's a great listen as well. Very, very entertaining. Here you can find episodes every Tuesday and every Thursday morning. I do have a big guest joining me next week. It's Mr. Jay Monahan, so I'm excited for that one. But no, Conor, thanks a million for joining me, and I'll be sure to get you on soon.